What's up, my dudes? Top 5 most needed features in Monster Energy Supercross 2, the official video game of all time. So, in this one, not only am I talking about sort of my own personal top 5 hopes I have for, the Supercross 2 video game, but also I think it's like necessity things in the game that really need to be in there for the game to be, quote unquote, what I would consider successful. Like, just in an overall community sense, like it needs some things, man, big time. So I wanted to come in here to try to pinpoint down on those top 5 things so that, these are the most important things I think they need to focus on. So let's just get her started up. I'm not going to go in here and do a crazy amount of editing. We're just going to do a little bit of top 5, number 5. So these are in no particular order, by the way. So we're just going in here kind of freeballing it. Definitely in the sexual way, too. But basically, so number 5, this could easily be number 1, however you want to put it. But one of the biggest issues with the first game, man, you have to have content. And this is something that I feel a little bit sorry for some of the, motocross gaming fan base, because it just seems like there's a lot of people out there that just simply either don't even understand or don't remember what actual motocross game content used to be. It's like they don't even remember it. It's like they just don't get it. It's like they don't even understand how motocross games used to come out with multiple different kinds of tracks and racing and everything in one singular game, right? People just seem to not even understand that. And that's sort of a trend that's happened with just all gaming here recently. They're just stripping content out, man, making you pay the same amount of money for less stuff. And it's just that simple. So that's one of the biggest things to this game. And let me just give you a hard-hitting example right here to really make it make sense to you, okay? So a lot of people look at Reflex like it's the greatest arcade motocross game of all time, including me. I look at it as the absolute GOAT of arcade motocross games. And let's just say MX vs. ATV Reflex only had Supercross tracks on it. That was it. There was no free ride tracks. There was no motocross tracks. There was no freestyle courses. There was no fun, like, trail waypoint style tracks on it. Let's just say you somehow was able to go back in time and release Reflex, the exact physics system of it, gameplay system, all that to it, graphics, everything back in that time frame, but it only had the Supercross tracks on it. Reflex would have been nothing, bro. Nothing without that content. It wouldn't be considered the greatest arcade motocross game. It would have been pretty bad, man. Would have been terrible if it would have came out with only Supercross tracks. So you see what I'm saying whenever I say things like, the original official Monster Energy Supercross game. There's no way that game could be on a legendary status level. It's impossible. Because even if you took the greatest arcade motocross game and just stripped out all the tracks except the Supercross tracks, like the official Monster Energy Supercross game was released with, the first one, it wouldn't have been that amazing game that it was. So you start to understand how important content really becomes, man. I think it's a lot bigger of a deal than people make it out to be. They love to look at it like, well, it's just the official Monster Energy Supercross game, Spencer. Why does it need anything else? It just needs those Supercross tracks. That's it. That's all it needs. Whew, man, like, you got to understand. That content is what makes you play the game. That content is what makes you come back to the game. That's like such an important thing, dude. You could have the greatest physics, greatest feeling on the bike, greatest everything to it, but if there's not enough tracks to ride on, it really don't matter anyways. It doesn't matter anyways. And the biggest aspect is having at least like 2 or 3 different types of motocross riding, whether it be like, Supercross and motocross tracks, or it's like Supercross tracks and enduro cross. They could just throw one or 2 little fun enduro cross indoor tracks, a couple more free ride tracks, right? Like, they've got to have more. It's got to have more to it, dude. There's got to be more stuff to actually ride on in the game. And that's such a big aspect to it. You know, instead of just having like one free ride track, they need to go in there and have 2 or 3 full-blown free ride tracks with preferably different, you know, quite drastically different biomes to it to make it interesting, make you want to keep coming back and playing it, hitting bigger jumps, stuff like that. It'd be a lot of fun in a game like this. And, you know, I'm not saying it's got to have a full motocross series in it. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm trying to get at is just having like 3 or 4 motocross tracks, man. You know, just something for us to go ride on that's motocross instead of just only supercross tracks. There's just something that it does to you mentally when there's only one type of track in a certain particular motocross video game. It just gets boring so quick to me. And that's just me, and it's just that lack of content. So that's number 5, okay? So let's move on. Number 4, okay? They've got to make improvements to the filling on the bike. They absolutely have to, man. And I'm not saying that it needs to be like, you know, some sort of simulator. That's the first thing people want to bring up. Oh, Spencer, you just want it to be like MX Simulator. You just want it to be way too difficult, man. This game is meant to be for everybody. It's meant to be an arcade motocross game, not a simulator. Listen, I don't want it to be a simulator. I just want it to be more skill-gapped in general, but I'm not saying make it like a simulator. It's 2 completely different things, man. You got to be able to understand that. They've got to make improvements to the way it feels going over whoops, man. It just feels like there's nothing to them. It's like you just go over whoops and you're not scared of them. You're just like, hold the gas down. That's all there is to it, bro. You can hit whoops any way you want to in this game, and ain't nothing going to happen on them. It's just they're so stale and boring, and they just feel like a straightaway. You might as well just take the whoops out because that's what they feel like in this game. In the first one, they're just nothing. And that feeling of actually having more movement on the bike, more ability to hook up and actually change your trajectory on the bike is something I really, really want to see in that second game. You know, it feels like with some of these milestone games, there's just not enough movement forward and backwards. So you don't really get that feeling of like, man, I'm really getting this skill of being able to actually hook this bike up out of a corner and hit this bigger rhythm that I couldn't normally hit. You don't really get that feeling because there's this like super restriction to your vertical movement, you know, your forward and backwards movement on the bike. So then you get that sort of feeling to it. Like there's not enough skill on that side of it. So that's another really big aspect I feel like needs to be quite drastically improved on it. And just the overall feeling of, you know, where you come up short on something and losing a little bit more momentum and having to be a little bit more precise on the jumps. You know, it's one thing to have like 1-to-1 scale realistic design supercross tracks. I know that's what they're going for, but you got to make it where you got to make it where it's not as much so just land anywhere you want to and you're going to be perfectly fine. There's got to be a little more of that actual skill involved. There's got to be a little bit more of that actually feeling like when you downside something perfectly, you're really, really gaining speed by doing that. Or like you have to downside a triple in absolutely perfectly to be able to quad some section or something like that. You know, there's got to be more of that type of feeling to it. I just want the game to feel more like an actual solid full game experience, more so than just a like super beginner feeling like, you know, almost like a damn mobile easiness game. I hate when some motocross games can get that kind of feeling to them, like they just become so easy that there's literally no risk to anything. You know, motocross is a dangerous sport. I know it's just an arcade game, but in even Supercross on top of all that, it's supposed to be technical. There's supposed to be a certain aspect of, oh, I'm jumping big, or oh, this is kind of scary if I come up short on this, or oh, these whoops, man, ooh, whoops are really hard to figure out in real life. If any guys know in real life, actual whoops, like, you don't just glide over that shit the first day. Like, that takes you months to learn how to go through whoops, maybe even longer after you've broken a couple bones. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, whoops ain't something that's that easy. You know, you got to start making it a little more difficult just overall in the game. So that's one big aspect. So number 3, I want to see massive improvements to the track editor in the game. So it was a really cool thing to see in the game, but I mean, I'm wanting to see like where you can not only make tracks in stadiums, but also make these outdoor style tracks on certain whatever kind of pre-made little areas you have in the game. Make it to where we can go in there and place down log objects and make hill climb log rock trail sections, and actually being able to place objects on it and making more of a, like, where we can make our own pre-made rut systems and rut designs and pre-made roughness and stuff like that, instead of just having just these simplistic pieces to the game where you can't really adjust a lot. You can't even adjust the actual track dirt compounds in the first game at all. There's none of that. So we need to be able to put different types of dirt, like sand, hard pack, brownie mix, loam, hard pack brownie mix, muddy design stuff. You know, you got to be able to make it to where we can have, like, let's just say there's a, you know, we're able to put like a water pond on our custom track in the game, and you can make, like, around the water pond the dirt more muddy looking and filling in that certain area. You know, it's little stuff like that, and more things to actually separate our tracks from everybody else's track, not only visually but obviously physically as well. You know, I want to have more big jump motocross pieces, roughness pieces. I'm hoping there's more ways to edit and adjust on the tracks. I mean, it's got a lot of potential, dog, as far as the track editors in these games. If they can just really start making it closer to like a PC editor, obviously it's not going to be able to go all the way like that, but, you know, making it more like that, where you can go in there and change lighting effects, make it nighttime, daytime, sunset, you know, make it to where it's just all different types of stuff, giving us things where we can actually place our own types of tough blocks anywhere we want to. We can place our own objects, put trees on the track. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Inside lines. Maybe you can make it to where, you know, we could adjust on some of the actual elevation in some areas of the track. Make it kind of fun. I mean, hell, even if you don't have any actual motocross tracks in your game, at least give us the ability to create motocross tracks with the custom track editor in there, right? So want to see a lot of big improvements to that. Okay, moving on down the line, that was number 3. Let's move on to number 2. So another big thing is just like bikes. I mean, I know it sounds so stupid and silly and simplistic, but just overall more stuff to actually ride on, man. And I'm not saying it's got to be some MX versus ATV, you know, helicopters, airplanes, monster trucks, and the whole 9 yards and shit, but I'm just saying I want to see 125 two-strokes, 252 strokes, 254 strokes, 454 strokes, and maybe even go in there and throw in a little fun 50. Like, what's that going to hurt? All that's going to do is make the game more fun. And then possibly go in there and maybe add like an 85. That'd be really cool to see that in the game. Or something like a, I don't know, a 500 two-stroke or a 150 two-stroke or a 350 KTM. You know, this game is lacking. This is almost like a two-part point here. Basically, this game is lacking all of the sense of, like, just silly little fun side things that you see in some games out there. There's none of that. There's no tag. There's no, like, free riding tag. Like, it just doesn't have that sort of feeling in this game. No fun little side 50cc track racing or any of that, dude. There's just none of it. And so there's nothing to break up the monotony of riding on those same Supercross tracks over and over and over. So you get tired of it pretty quick, dude. So something else that I really, really, really want to see in the game. Hoping they can, you know, figure out that whole side and system to it. But number 1, and this is not like the most important thing or anything, it just the last point of the 5 points here. Basically, I just want to see where it's just got enough of a change to it. You know, and that's a really big point, man. You guys remember when Modern Warfare 3 came out? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I know this may be like before some of your guys' time, but when Modern Warfare 3 came out, after Modern Warfare 2, and it was basically looked like the same exact game, that's an issue. You know, you don't want your games to look just exactly like the game before, and you don't want to have the same exact type of feeling as the game before. You got to have enough in there to really make it feel like a new experience, like a new game. And that's going to be the biggest key thing to this Fisher Monceu Supercross video game too. Because if you don't add enough new stuff, and new fillings and stuff, new customization objects, and a big innovation to your track editor. If you don't do enough of that, people are just going to start getting tired of your game, because it's going to be the same game every year. 10% improvement for $60 more every year, and people's going to quit paying that. And it's just that simple. You've got to give us something that's worth our AAA level money. You got to give us enough of an improvement to be worth our AAA level money, or we're going to quit paying it. And so that's one of the biggest things I want to see, is just enough of a difference. Make your tracks feel a little different. Spice them up a little bit. Spice up your scaling maybe just a little bit. Fix some of that issues with the bike. Make the whip system a little better. Make it a little more free. Give us some more control options with the whips. Do some little things like that, and really make her feel like a new experience. I don't want a 0.5 game. I want a new game, right? That's why I'm paying you $60 more. I ain't paying you $30 more. I'm paying you $60 more. So don't give me a, official Monster Energy Supercross 1.5. Like, I want it official Monster Energy Supercross 2. So that's what I want to see, man. Got high hopes for you. We're going to see. So, that's top 5 most wanted, most hoped for, most needed kind of fixes or changes or improvements to the game. Hopefully they'll add it, man. But either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.